Well, if you have your Bible, we'll start this morning in Ephesians chapter 4. We're looking at the laws of life, and we're at the ninth command now, no false testimony. And this is the ninth command, so we're next to the end, and maybe it's time to say that sin is like M&Ms. It's hard to take just one. Sin tends to come in bunches, right? Look at last week's story with Jezebel. She misused the Lord's name. She murdered, she stole, she coveted, she bore false witness. She clearly served another God. She violated at least 6 out of the 10 commandments. If you're breaking more than half the commands in one fell swoop, that should be a sign this may not be God's best for you. Or think about other sins, how they come in bunches. If someone's looking at pornography, right? There's clearly pride. They're stealing someone else's humanity. There's lust, which Jesus said is tantamount to adultery. And then they're hiding, right? Which is lying. You're in denial. A lot of sins with just pornography. Or if someone is jealous of someone else, that often leads to envy and then to pride. They steal what they have. They slander them. When someone calls them an account, they lie about it. They cover it up. Sin comes in bunches. And almost always one of the bunches is lying, covering it up. And so today, this is the ninth command, don't bear false testimony. And I want to say right off the top that take the bigger picture and talk about truth. And it's important to say that truth is an end in itself, right? We preach truth, we cling to truth. Jesus is the truth. Truth doesn't need any justification. Truth is an end in itself. But truth also has lots of value, right? Truth is power. If you're living in truth, you're in reality. If you're living in lies, you're living in falsehood and living on air, right? If something is true, it means it corresponds to reality. It's the way things are. If something is false, it means it doesn't correspond to reality. Things are not like that. Lies are weakness. Lies are nothingness. Lies are a big hole. Lies are like rust. You can't think of a rusty ladder. The metal would be the truth. But if your ladder is rusty, you're climbing up on a rusty ladder full of holes, and you're probably going to fall. Think of the truth or the fact, or the statements. A young man may think, she likes me, and my car is running fine, and I have lots of money in my bank account. But if it turns out that his checks bounce and the car doesn't start, he may find out that, in fact, she does not like him. Right? Truth, it's good to believe things, but only if they're true. If they're lies, they break you. So truth is knowledge, and knowledge is power. If you're living in the truth, you're living in reality. Think of communism, right? Communism would force their people in Eastern Europe in the, 60s, 70s, 80s, to live by lies. People said things that they knew were not true. In China, they had the Cultural Revolution, same thing, where the authorities forced people to say things that no one really believed. We just came through a period in this country, the wokeism, right, where people were told that a boy can be a girl and a girl can be a boy, and if you're a certain color, if you're white, if you're a male, well, then you are the problem. And remember that felt like vertigo, and things were really upside down, and it was confusing. But in that moment, if you realize that, wait, truth is power, and truth is freedom. You could hold your head up and speak the truth. And if you had courage, that courage inspired other people. And the people that went along with the lie, well, Warren Buffett had a line from 2008 with that mortgage crisis. He said, remember people were over-leveraged, they had big loans they couldn't pay back, and Buffett said, you can't tell who's not wearing swim trunks until the tide goes out. And we saw that in just the last few years, right? People that I trusted, I thought we were together. Turns out you were just a pragmatist this whole time. You were just doing whatever the culture told you were allowed to do. And then the tide went out, and I saw you're behind. And I wasn't looking for that. But it was embarrassing. And now the tide's coming back in, and it's too late. Like, I realize I can't trust you. You're still not wearing trunks. So truth is reality. The opposite of truth is lies, and that's holes. That's like rust. You can't build on that. So Ephesians chapter 4, there's Ephesians and Colossians are parallel books in many ways. And near the end of the books, God through Paul talks about the importance of truth. And he gives a reason for being truthful in Ephesians 4 and a different reason in Colossians 3. First of all, Ephesians 4. Ephesians 4:25. Therefore, each of you must put off falsehood and speak truthfully to your neighbor, for we are all members of one body. Why is it important to speak the truth with each other? Paul says because we're members of one body. Lies divide. Lies break trust. Think about what's going on in this country right now. We have two sides, and both sides, the leaders of both sides, lie. One side might lie more than the other, but both sides, politicians, we've always known, they lie. And so people don't trust the other side, and that divides us, right? And there's different kinds of lies, at least 3 of them I want to mention. One lie is where you give the opposite of what's true. Like you just flat out say the opposite. So one company says, oh my goodness, the tariffs are causing our prices to rise, so we have to charge you more for our raw material. And that's not actually true. It's price gouging. They're using the tariffs to some companies to make money. And if you realize that's what they're doing, well, now you wonder what else are you lying about? Maybe the materials have been too high all this time. So you can lie by just saying the opposite. You can also lie by saying not enough of the truth. You can spin it, right? So you can say, oh, COVID's the reason we have to make these draconian measures. When actually, you had to do this anyway. You were in trouble. COVID is just partly a reason, but not the real reason. So this is a lie that doesn't say enough of the truth. And if you stand on one leg and tilt your head and squint, maybe it sounds like the truth, but it's not really. And if you know someone's spinning, you don't trust them. Right? If you know someone said COVID is the reason we're doing this, and then that wasn't the reason, you don't trust them in the future. And then some lies, you can lie by saying the opposite, you can lie by not saying enough, you can also lie by saying going overboard, way beyond, saying way too much. You exaggerate, right? So someone does something, that was great. You were terrific. You're amazing. That was awesome. Or in church, that was such a blessing. And no one really thinks that. You're just overselling, right? You're saying too much. And that also leads to cynicism. Because if someone knows that you're someone who's everything's always amazing and wonderful when it really wasn't, well, they don't trust you. I read a book on leadership a few years ago, and someone in this book, they said, here's what you do if you're a president, if you're a CEO. When things are really bad and you're this close to going out of business, well, you can't say that. You have to get up in front of people and tell them things are going great. Things are wonderful. We just had a great quarter. Get them to trust you. That's what leaders do. Leaders project confidence. Leaders spin. Leaders must get people to trust them. I said, but I just read what you wrote. So now I'll never trust you. Right? If you get up and say everything's wonderful and great, I'll know you just said that's what I say because I'm a leader, not because it's actually true. So I get what he's saying, but I've seen leaders get up and tell people, you can trust us. When they know there's problems going on in their organization, you really can't trust them. So lying breaks trust. So just so you know, I can't always share everything with you, right? There are some things I can't tell you, but I will never lie to you. I will never spin or say things that aren't true. I might have some fun with you on April Fools. Yeah. I fooled more people than I thought I was going to fool. So just for the record, there is no truth to the rumor started by me that a trans-denominational conglomerate from Chicago is going to take us over. That is not happening. And maybe I'll call next year's, so just so you know, so you don't get upset, next year's joke will probably be something about like a Chick-fil-A merger, because Chick-fil-A is closed on Sundays, and that would probably work. So I'm probably going to go with that one, so just don't get upset. So I may have fun on April Fool's, but I'm not, that's what April Fool's Day is for. So Ephesians 4 says, If you lie to each other, you break trust, and then you become divided. Colossians chapter 3, verse 9 says, do not lie to each other. Here's a different reason. Since you have taken off your old self with its practices and put on the new self, which is being renewed in knowledge in the image of its creator. Here there's neither Gentile or Jew, circumcised or uncircumcised, barbarian, Scythian, slave or free, but Christ is all and is in all. Why must you speak the truth? Because Christ is in you, and you're in Christ, and Jesus is the truth. What do lies imply about Jesus? If Jesus, who is the truth, right? John 14:6, I am the way, the truth, and the life. If Jesus is in this church and we're in Jesus, if we lie, what does that imply about him? This is what's going on, I think, in Acts chapter 5 with Ananias and Sapphira. Or does that ever bother you? This couple does this really wonderful thing. They sell their land and give a big chunk of the money to the church. The only problem was they said they gave more. They said they gave all of it when they really didn't. And the Holy Spirit struck them down dead. Like, that's excessive. Unless, what is the early church, what is their message? Something pretty crazy, right? We sang about it this morning, that a person who's actually God, not just a human, but he died and he rose from the dead. A miracle happened and we saw him. You have to be able to trust those people, right? If you think they lie about their bank account, they lie about their offerings, they'll lie about money, are you going to trust them when they said they saw Jesus is alive? We've been entrusted with this miraculous message about Jesus. The truth matters here more than anywhere. But we want to be careful to always speak what's true, but we don't need to always speak everything that's true. Right? Back in Ephesians chapter 4, right after God through Paul says, each of you must put off falsehood and speak truthfully to your neighbor. He says in verse 29, do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs. So we want to always speak what's true. If you always say everything that's true, well, you don't want to live in a world like that. That's overly harsh. John 1:14, Jesus is God God and human. He is grace and truth. Truth and grace. Truth that isn't gracious isn't the truth. And grace that's not truthful, it's not grace. If you live in a world that's only true, well, that's way too harsh. If you live in a world with only grace and no truth, well, that's not grace. That's just a world of unicorns and fairies and make-believe. We have to have truth and grace and truth. And by the way, that comes out most clearly in forgiveness. What is forgiveness? It's saying, this is the truth. This is what I did to you. This is what you did to me. I'm going to unvarnish this. These are the facts. And now, will you forgive me? Or now, I will forgive you. I will pardon you. Forgiveness brings grace and truth together. But here, Paul is saying, ask yourself, and what I'm about to say, does this build them up? Is this what they need to hear? Does this benefit them? Or does it just benefit me? How many times, and this might just be me, but how many times when people are talking to me, I'm not really listening. I'm thinking about the joke I'm about to make. Right? I'm going to say something that's going to make you laugh and think I'm a clever guy. And that's bad. Right? I should be listening to them and trying to hear them, and how can I benefit them? But still, people can put you on the spot sometimes, right? The classic questions, so how's my casserole? Or does this dress make me look fat? Or how did I do? Or, oh, I really messed up. How bad was it? What do you do when people put you on the spot like that? So there's some tension here. Just think with me. I'm going to walk through the tension with you. So we've just said the big picture is truth really matters, right? Jesus is the truth. That's true. But now just put a little wrinkle in it. The ninth command does not actually say, you shall not lie. It says, you shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. That's the command. The ninth command isn't do not lie, never deceive. It says, do not give false testimony against your neighbor. That's a bit different, right? One more wrinkle. That command, when it comes up later in Scripture, it is combined with do not lie. Let me just show you a few verses. I'll read this one for you because you will never find it. Zechariah chapter 8, verse 16. I only found it because I marked it. Zechariah 8:16. These are the things you are to do. Speak the truth to each other and render true and sound judgment in your courts. Do not plot evil against each other and do not love to swear falsely. I hate all this, declares the Lord. So Zechariah 8:16 and 17 combines don't swear falsely and don't lie. Proverbs chapter 6, another one. Proverbs 6:16. There are 6 things the Lord hates, 7 that are detestable to him. Haughty eyes, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked schemes, feet that are quick to rush into evil, a false witness who pours out lies. So a false witness who pours out lies and a lying tongue. Again, same context. And one more, Leviticus chapter 19. Leviticus 19, verse 11. Do not lie. Well, there you go. Do not lie. Do not deceive one another. And then verse 15. Do not pervert justice. Do not show partiality to the poor or favoritism to the great, but judge your neighbor fairly. So, lying and not bearing false witness, they are linked. One more wrinkle. In Scripture, some lying is okay. Lying is just deception, right? And deceptions can be verbal or nonverbal. The midwives who were told to kill Hebrew babies, and they told Pharaoh, "Oh, the Hebrew women, they're too vigorous. They give birth too quickly. We couldn't get there in time." That was a lie, and they were praised for that. Rahab, the prostitute, hid spies. She lied. She deceived all of Jericho, and they were spies. If you're a spy, you are a lie, or you're a really bad spy. Right? What is a spy but someone who says, I'm just like you, but really inside, they're not like you. And there are other examples. That's enough to show that not all deception is wrong, right? It's complicated. We can discuss this on a Sunday night in more detail. You could say, well, you know the classic story about, I think Corrie ten Boom wrote about this with her sister, that there were Germans hiding Nazis from Jews. And the Nazis come to the door and they ask, are you hiding Jews? And the sister says, well, yes, they're here. And they're under the table. And they, they laugh because they're under the table, there's nothing there. Now, there was a rug under the table and a trapdoor under that, and that's where they were. But the author says, so you see, these Germans, these were fine Christians because they wouldn't even lie to protect the Jews. She told the truth. Well, no, actually. The minute she hid the Jews, she was lying. She crossed that bridge a long time ago. Now, I'm not saying I'm saying you don't have to think if I just say the right words, and that's not the point. The point is, are you deceiving or not? And she was right to deceive Nazis. Right? If a Nazi comes to your door, you lie like a rug. It's a Nazi. They don't deserve to be told the truth, right? So I'm just saying it is complicated, and don't just get yourself in a situation where you think, if I just say the right words, that's not the point. If you're hiding people in your home, you are deceiving, and that's okay. Not all deception is wrong. Think about sports. Try and play a basketball game if you're not allowed to fake right and go left, or do a no-look pass, right? You can't fake it to the running back and throw long. Sports is built on deception. That's why some teams have signs. And other teams go to whatever lengths to steal those signs. Because it's about deception. Surprise parties, right? You're probably planning one right now. A surprise for a spouse, a child, and you're deceiving them. You're going to tell your kids, we're going to school today, just like ever. And then you're going to just go up to Great Wolf Lodge and surprise them. And it's great. Surprises are the best. Presents, right? You have an engagement ring, and you put this little ring in a really big box, and you trick them. Humor gets you leaning right. Going April Fools, right? Some deception is okay. So just say it's complicated, and some people don't deserve to be told the truth, like Nazis, and not all deception is wrong, but in the main, we are told to always speak the truth. So when someone asks you, how about my casserole? Does this dress make it look fat? How'd I do? I think it's important to first ask, you don't want to lie to them, right? But it's important to ask, like, what are they really asking? We have the words that are said, but then the meaning of the words, like, what are they really asking? And usually they're asking for affirmation. So you can affirm them in general ways, like, honey, I always enjoy your cooking. Or, I love you for you. Or, there were some really good moments in that performance, right? You can affirm them. But then if they press, if they want really, they're asking for details, for actual facts, then a couple of suggestions. Start small, right? Don't unload. Say things like, well, stewed tomatoes aren't my favorite, or it could have maybe a little less salt. I had a colleague once, years ago, I was first just starting out, young professor, and he asked me, he wrote an article, and he said, give me your feedback. Give me your honest feedback. And I thought he meant it. And we didn't talk after that. So I learned, start small, right? Say just a little bit, and also better to do it, save it for later. Like, you can maybe defer, say, well, I'm not an expert, or if you are an expert, say, like and this isn't a problem here, but when someone just gets done with a sermon, you don't want to start with the criticism, right? It's just, give me a day, or give me an afternoon, right? And this is not a problem, so I'm not saying like you've done this, but when someone's just got done with doing something and they want, how'd I do? Say, well, let's have an appointment and talk about it later in the week when it's not so personal. So you don't want to lie to them, but you also want to be gracious. Speak the truth, but you don't have to speak the whole truth. We don't want to build a life on lies. We don't want to be a bully either, right? You don't want to walk around and just drop truth bombs on people and explode their day. Like, your kids, they're brats, aren't they? Or, who's been eating good in the neighborhood? This guy, right? Or, that sermon was, did you even prepare? Like, at no point in that rambling diatribe did you approach anything that resembled a logical or biblical point. I think the whole room is dumber for having heard it. Right? That's not helpful. So the command is don't bear false witness, which means don't deceive, but also it's really about being destructive. Psalm 120, verse 2, save me, Lord, from lying lips and from deceitful tongues. Leviticus 19:16, don't go about spreading slander. This is especially important in the ancient Near East because there were few ways back here to vindicate yourself and your reputation. There weren't many written documents, not many contracts. So if someone's slandering you, if someone's saying bad things about you, how would you exonerate yourself? How would you prove that that's not true? And that's why in the courtroom, Deuteronomy 19, verses 15 and 21 says, don't ever take just one witness for it. You always need 2 or 3 witnesses. And if a witness lies, do to that witness what he intended to do to the accused. That'll stop frivolous lawsuits. But still, even if you wait to have 2 or 3 witnesses, any system is only as good as the people that are running it. And that's what Jesus found out. So if you have your Bibles, look at Matthew chapter 27. Matthew 26. Matthew 26. We'll start in verse 57. As you turn, just want to mention, this is important, the Heidelberg Catechism, which when it discusses the 10 Commandments, says what's negative, what to avoid. It also gives a positive cast to it. About this command to not bear false witness, how it interprets it. This means I never give false testimony against anyone. I twist no one's words, neither by gossip or slander. And here's the positive. If you're really keeping this command, I should do what I can to guard and advance my neighbor's good name. Not bearing false witness doesn't mean just don't lie about someone or don't slander them. Not bearing false witness, it also means how can I protect and how can I advance the good name of other people? What if, when we come to church, what if our first thought was, how can I make, just throw out names, Barb think more highly of Sue? Right? As we discuss, as we interact after the service, what if we thought, it would be a good day if when I go home, two people at church like each other better because of something I said. Wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't that be great? It's good gossip. And that's what the Heidelberg says we should do. So Matthew 26, if truth is power and Christ is the truth, we see in this story that Christ is in charge. He's the one person who stays calm as everyone else around him gets more and more upset. Verse 57, Matthew 26, those who had arrested Jesus took him to Caiaphas, the high priest, where the teachers of the law and the elders had assembled. We saw a few weeks ago, Jesus as a boy had been at the temple 20 years before. Then he had impressed these people with his answers, but now the fix was in. The trial was just a formality. They were looking for evidence to justify his murder. Verse 59, the chief priests and the whole Sanhedrin were looking for false evidence against Jesus so that they could put him to death. Now, they would probably deny this, right? I don't think they were thinking we are breaking the ninth command here as they're trying Jesus. They were self-deceived. What is self-deception? Neil Plantinga says self-deception is when you make a move on yourself and you cover up your tracks. Self-deception should be psychologically impossible. Because to deceive myself, I have to do it, and while I'm doing it, I have to tell myself I'm not doing it and believe myself. That's nuts. And yet, I do it all the time. And so do you. And so did Caiaphas and the high priest. At some level, they had to believe the lie. Like George Costanza said, it's not a lie if you believe it. That's not true. But they had to believe that it was a lie. They had to believe that it could be true. They had to believe that maybe it should be true. But in verse 60, they could not find anyone who would testify persuasively against Jesus, though many false witnesses came forward. Mark 14, a parallel passage, says, their statements did not agree. Of course, that's the problem with lies. Lies often contradict. The truth never does. Your life is so much easier if you always tell the truth. You don't have to remember what I told you when, because it might not match up. And you wonder, was this trial, was it laughably absurd? Did Jesus roll his eyes? Did someone crack a joke? Well, this is going well. Did someone say, I saw Jesus doing this despicable thing in Capernaum? And then someone else said, yes, and I saw him do the same thing in Nazareth. And when was it? Oh, the same day. Ugh. The Sanhedrin looked worse as the night wore on. Clearly, this is just a witch hunt, a clown show. It was a bunch of monkeys flinging poo at the wall, trying to see what sticks. Finally, in verse 60, two came forward and said, this fellow said, how dismissive is that? How arrogant? How full of disdain and contempt? This one said, I am able to destroy the temple of God and rebuild it in 3 days. Mark 14 says, and still they did not agree. Because in Matthew, Jesus said, I am able to destroy the temple. In Mark 14, he said, I will destroy the temple. Both are wrong. Both are twisted memories of what Jesus said back in John chapter 2. In John 2, Jesus cleared the temple, right? And the leader said, on what authority do you do this? Give us a sign. And Jesus said, destroy this temple, and I will rebuild it in 3 days. He did not say he would destroy the temple. He said you would destroy the temple. If you destroy it, I'm responsible for the rebuild, not the destruction. And the temple, John said, was actually speaking about himself anyway. No one in John 2 asked Jesus how he thought he could destroy the temple in 3 days. They're only amazed that he said he could rebuild it in 3 days, because it took 46 years. So still contradicts, still a bunch of lies, but the high priest, he's excited. He thinks he's got something. He wiped the sweat from his brow and jumped up and said, finally, Jesus, are you not going to answer? What is this testimony that these men are bringing against you? But Jesus remained silent, calm, because he's the truth. And it's pointless to refute silly, contradictory charges. When you speak the truth, when you have the truth, when you are the truth, you can keep your head. You can stay calm, even when it's a clown show all around you. In verse 63, the high priest said to him, I charge you under oath by the living God, tell us if you are the Messiah, the Son of God. You have said so, Jesus replied. But I say to all of you, from now on, you will see the Son of Man, that's me, sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven. This is remarkable. The high priest asked Jesus point blank, are you the Messiah, the Son of God? He had the Messiah right in front of him. And Jesus, the Messiah, said yes, and he missed it. How great, how remarkable. You're the high priest. You've trained your whole life for one thing. And now you meet that one thing. And that one thing says, he is that one thing. And you say, you ain't no thing. It's like looking your whole life for the golden goose. You find the golden goose. The golden goose lays the golden egg. And you ask, are you the golden goose? And the golden goose says, yes, I'm the golden goose. You say, liar. How did you miss that? Well, that's what he's asking himself right now. Probably he's looking for the wrong thing. He had fought too much with Jesus, right? Jesus clearly wasn't on his team, and he's on God's team, so Jesus couldn't be on God's side. Got to be careful with that, right? And we think, well, we're clearly on the right here because we're Christians. And so anyone who's not with us must be not with Jesus. We can be wrong too on some things. And probably it was a lot of the lies. If you're looking for false witnesses, lies cloud your vision. Lies prevent you from seeing the truth. If you're lying, you're losing. And just a word, because it happens a lot today, probably most in politics. And both professing Christians on both sides justify whatever their side does, including the lies. We have to stop that, right? I was told since I was a kid in churches like this, the end does not justify the means. And now the same people that always told me that are making excuses for the end justifying the means. Your children and your grandchildren are paying attention. The tide is going out, and they will see. The lies cloud your vision. He jumps up and says, well, clearly he's guilty of blasphemy because he can't be the Son of God. And then verse 67, they spit in his face and struck him with their fists. Others slapped him and said, prophesy to us, Messiah. Who hit you? Think about this. These are the leaders of the people of God, the people that he delivered out of Egypt, the people he married on Mount Sinai, people he patiently brought through the wilderness into the promised land, the ones he brought back from exile, the ones he came to save. And they are literally, not metaphorically, they are literally spitting in his face. And a big goober hits his eyebrow and runs down his cheek and off of his chin. They're out of control. Only one person remained calm. And that's the truth. Because Jesus is the truth. Let me say just a couple things about that as we close. If Jesus is the truth, right? John 14:6, I am the way, the truth. If Jesus is the truth, that means the truth, it's personal. It's relational. Think of even abstract forms of knowledge, like math. Math doesn't seem personal, does it? Well, remember solving for x in junior high? It's an equation. Equations are, by definition, a relation. You're trying to solve the relationship. Even math is built on relationships, and science is built physics. E equals mc squared, right? That's about relationships. Why? Why is all knowledge relational? Because all reality, all truth, comes from the Trinity, the triune God, who is relational. Three persons, and Jesus is the person. And that's why at a funeral, what do people always talk about? The friend. How this person spent time with me. No one ever talks about the resume. Never say how much money the person made or what organization they led. It doesn't matter. I've done enough funerals to know now. It doesn't matter how successful you were in life. What matters at a funeral is, did you have time for me? Did you care about me? Were you there for me? And you can be quite unspectacular in life and have an amazing funeral. And you can be a Fortune 500 leader and no one will cry at your funeral. And that's a tragedy. Truth is personal. And truth isn't just personal, it's particular. It's not just any person, it's this man. Reality is not just about persons, it's about one person. It's about Jesus. He is the truth. And that's why I'm learning and I'm doing hopefully a better job of it, and I'm going to, from here on forward, this is where my thrust of what I'm going to do here at this church. I will never talk to you about forgiveness, contentment, peace, justice, faithfulness, anything just in the abstract or in general. Satan would be really pleased if we all forgive each other in general, if we all learn to be thankful people in general, if we all learn to be content and practice techniques for being content in general. You can do all that and go to hell. We're going to talk about forgiveness in Christ, contentment in Jesus, gratitude for Jesus, faithfulness from Jesus and for Jesus. Nothing in general ever, right? It's all about Jesus, because reality is about a person, and not just any, it's a particular person. This one is the truth. And this one Jesus, who is the truth, there's power there, right? So the truth is worthy for his own sake. Don't miss that. The truth is the truth, and we cling to Jesus for his sake. But if you cling to Jesus for his sake, there are great benefits too. You got to be careful. You don't love Jesus for the benefits, that messes it up. But if you love Jesus for his sake, because he's the truth, so many benefits. Power, right? What do you hear today? A lot. Live your truth. Embrace your truth. You do you. Well, that's a lie. Is there anything weaker than trying to just live your truth? Jesus is the truth. We don't live our truth. We cling to the truth. And if you try to live your truth, that's like trying to walk up a rusty ladder. There's nothing there to support you. And Jesus is the truth. He's a steel bat, a torpedo bat, who takes a couple swings at your ladder and destroys it for your sake. We don't embrace our truth. We embrace Jesus. So quickly as we end, Peter. So we have in Matthew 26, the false witnesses. And right after that, Peter, who also lied, denied Jesus. He abandoned Christ when Christ needed him most. And there's no coming back from that. Like, you're done. Right? You've never thought of doing anything as bad as what Peter did. That's as bad as we can imagine. Peter could not come back from that. But Jesus went to Peter. He called the shot, right, in Luke 22 and said, I will, when you return encourage your brothers. And then Jesus went to Peter and built that fire. The fire reminded Peter of the fire where he denied Jesus 3 times. And Jesus restored Peter. Peter, do you love me? And Peter had to be feeling really down, as lower than we can't imagine how low Peter felt. But what if he had given into his hopelessness and to his despair and said, Jesus, just leave me alone. Like, I can't even, I'm not worth it. I'm not worth your trouble. I can't be saved. If he had done that, that would have showed that he really wasn't as despairing of himself as he thought. He was really rather full of himself. It's a form of pride. Like, Jesus, you don't understand. I, little Peter, did something that's too much for you. Like, I know you died and rose again, and that's wonderful, but you can't fix this. If you get too low, so you want to feel, I want to feel, we must feel the weight of our sin. Right? That's why every Sunday we mention sin, guilt, shame, and hell. We want to feel what we deserve. We have to drop before Christ can rescue us. But if we drop in a way it's a bad way to drop, right? If we drop into to despair and think there is no way that I can be saved, what I did is it's unpardonable. I think I did the unpardonable sin. I think I can't be forgiven. Well, get over yourself. You're just not that impressive. You are not stronger than Jesus. Don't be so arrogant. Stay humble. Be humble enough to recognize Jesus is more powerful than you. My sin, your sin, those are the lies. Jesus, he's the truth. And so we confess our lies, we turn from our lies, we cling to the truth, we rest in Jesus.